What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today we are going to be talking about 3 must-start and 3 must-sit wide receivers for your fantasy football leagues in week 1 of the NFL season. So without further ado, let's hop right into this video and figure out who we're starting and who we're sitting this week. So first and foremost, let's get the pessimism out of the way. We will talk about the 3 guys that I want to sit in my fantasy football leagues this week, and we're going to be starting with wide receiver Christian Watson for the Green Bay Packers. Now this may partially be a given because Christian Watson is currently dealing with a hamstring injury that may end up sidelining him anyways this week. The Packers are scheduled to have a tough divisional matchup against the Chicago Bears in Chicago this weekend with a game total projected at around 42 points. I do not expect the Green Bay Packers to score a lot of points. Again, this is going to be possibly because one, Christian Watson might just not be on the field, and if he is, it looks like Jordan Love is projected to throw somewhere between 200 and 225 yards depending on his line over there on DraftKings. Watson also isn't really known as a PPR monster. He's more of a big play guy, and if he has that hamstring injury and he does decide to play, I think that the hamstring could limit those big plays, thus making him really just a touchdown opportunity that you hope hits, which I would not be making that bet for Christian Watson. So for me, he is a must sit in this matchup this week if he even decides to go, but he may not decide to go anyways. Now the second player that I will not be starting in my fantasy football leagues this week is going to be Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts are going to be playing at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars in a tough divisional matchup as well. I do think that this team is going to go through some growing pains with Anthony Richardson at quarterback. Now, if you do look at the DraftKings projected lines for Anthony Richardson, they do have him projected at over under 1.5 touchdowns and just under 200 yards. So if you have 1.5 touchdowns and less than 200 yards passing from Anthony Richardson, it's going to be tough for Michael Pittman to have a good day at the wide receiver position as well. The projected total for this game does sit at 46.5, but I think a majority of that is because of the Jacksonville Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley, all of their weapons that they have over there. And when you do look at some of the projected lines that DraftKings is posting for Michael Pittman Jr., you're looking at lines that are over under 49.5 yards receiving and over under 4.5 receptions. So if this is kind of the lines that they are looking at, and keep in mind that sportsbooks are some of the sharpest minds when it comes to setting lines, it's not looking like it's going to be a good day for Michael Pittman Jr. Maybe you can flex him, but I really wouldn't be banking on him on anything else. But for me, I would rather just sit him in this matchup. I'm not really looking to play him on my teams if I don't have to. Now, the last wide receiver that I think is a must sit this week is going to be George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, George Pickens is going to play in a matchup at home against the San Francisco 49ers, but the San Francisco 49ers have one of the best defenses in the NFL, and it definitely does show in these projections that we're getting for George Pickens this week. With a projected game total of 41.5 points, this is one of the lowest in the NFL this week. I think it's going to be more of a defensive matchup, and when you look at these lines on DraftKings for George Pickens, they're looking at over under 42.5 receiving yards and over under 3.5 receptions. Now, if that is the projections for George Pickens, you're really just hoping that he falls into the end zone. It is a possibility with George Pickens, but he is definitely not a volume play for you this week. Against a very tough defense, I'm avoiding George Pickens and I'm going to sit him on my teams. I don't want to play him if I don't have to. But now that we've gotten the pessimism out of the way, let's talk about some guys that I'm optimistic about and some guys that I think are must starts for your fantasy football teams this week. And we're going to be starting with Jaylen Waddle, wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins get to play in a game in Los Angeles against the Chargers this week with a projected game total at 51 points, which is one of the highest of the week here. Not only is Jaylen Waddle a big play waiting to happen, he has also proven that he can be a little bit of a PPR monster for your teams as well. I know they have Tyreek Hill on the opposite side. Obviously, we expect Tyreek Hill to have a good game, but I think Jaylen Waddle is going to get his this week as well against the Chargers. Tua Tagovailoa is projected to throw for over 250 yards in this matchup, and Jaylen Waddle's lines are set at over 4.5 receptions and over 65.5 yards. I would be taking the over on both of these. I think this is a great matchup. There's going to be a lot of scoring. It's going to be fast-paced, and Jaylen Waddle is due possibly for a touchdown even in this game as well. But you drafted Jaylen Waddle to be a starter on your team. This is one of the matchups that we want. We're looking forward to this matchup. It's going to be high scoring, and Jaylen Waddle should be a must-start in your lineups this week. Now, the second must-start wide receiver that we're going to be talking about is going to be Calvin Ridley. So we're going to go back to that Indianapolis Colts and Jaguars matchup. Again, that projected total is going to be 46.5 points, but I do think a majority of that total is going to come from the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Calvin Ridley is Trevor Lawrence's new #1 weapon, and I think he will be treated as such in this matchup against the Colts. Just like Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence is projected to throw a lot in this matchup, and just like Jaylen Waddle, Calvin Ridley's lines are set at 62.5 receiving and over 4.5 receptions in this matchup. So I do think that this is going to be a good game. I would definitely be taking the over on the 4.5 receptions. I think they're going to feed Calvin Ridley the ball. And when you look at these anytime touchdown projections over there on DraftKings, Calvin Ridley is projected the most likely to score a touchdown at any point during this game. So I think Calvin Ridley is due. This is going to be a good matchup for him, and I think he should be a must start in your lineups this week for your fantasy football teams. And the last guy that I'm going to be talking about as a must start is going to be a little bit deeper on your lineups. We're going to be talking about Mike Williams for the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, we're going back to that Dolphins matchup where it has one of the highest projected totals for that game this week in the NFL. And I think that 51 over under is going to be a big factor in why Mike Williams is going to be a part of this must starts for you this week. Obviously, Mike Williams is attached to Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, a guy that I have been clamoring over all offseason, officially named him my guy just a few weeks back. And as we are here, I think that Mike Williams is a big play waiting to happen. He is their deep threat over there in Los Angeles. And in a game that should be high scoring and kind of a shootout, I do expect Mike Williams to get a couple deep ball targets here in this game. And if he comes down with one or two of those targets and even finds himself in the end zone, Mike Williams could be due for a very big game. Justin Herbert's passing yardage projection is just about 300 yards in this matchup. And they have Mike Williams' projection set at 58.5 yards and 4.5 receptions. So if he does this, it is going to be because of a big play, but I think that we can bet on a big play in a matchup like this one against the Dolphins. And because of that, Mike Williams is a must start for me this week, and I will be plugging him in my lineups over guys like Christian Watson, Michael Pittman, and George Pickens. Now that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. It is the best free way to show our channel some support. We are trying to help you guys win fantasy football championships this year during the 2023 season and beyond. And if you like content like this and want more of it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. And last but not least, if you want to have access to me and ask me any start sit decisions, waiver decisions, any type of questions that you may have over the course of the season, go ahead and join my free Discord. It is going to be linked in the description, and that is where you will have access to do that. More videos like this coming soon. I will see you guys on the next one. Peace out.